Glory to God. I too served with Sister Ragnar on the street ministry, evangelism to children and families. And I had an awesome time with the Lord and with those children. I have never experienced so much unconditional love than what these children poured upon us. You have to understand, and I had to get on my kids when I got back because they were doing something that they were playing Monopoly. And I guess somebody was losing and someone tossed the board up and they're fighting over Monopoly. And I had to sit them down and tell them that Mommy just spent a week with children who their floor was, some of these homes had dirt floors. Their schools were concrete. And when you see the pictures, you'll know what I'm talking about. And it's like nothing like the American schools. It's like one room in one of the schools we went to. And it was like the younger kids in this building, and it wasn't a fancy building. It was a concrete building with beat up, torn up desks, plastic garden chairs. And then the other building was for the older kids, and they went 3 hours so the next session could start for the other kids to come. And then they walked to school. And I mean, they lived on, one school they lived on a mountain, like Sister Ragland said. And I have a picture, and I'm hoping to get those pictures out real soon, guys. Where they were walking up this hill, down this little narrow dirt road to get home, and their parents come to get them after school. And so I had to get my kids because they were fighting over Monopoly, and I'm like, these kids have nothing. And they had so much joy, and they just expressed joy and love to us. We went to the first stop we made was a school. And we went to the school, and it was like they had told us in advance that, oh, these kids are going to come, and they're going to love you, and they're going to want you to sign your name. And I'm thinking, oh, they're just joking. That's not going to happen. We're not superstars. We're just like normal people like them, and we're just trying to spread the love of God. And here those kids come. Wanted you to sign their names, your name in your notebook, like you were like a superstar, like, you know, past Michael Jackson for the younger generation. But it was amazing the love they shared, and they didn't really have a lot, but they had the joy of the Lord, and they shared it tremendously with you. And what really touched me, we were at that first school, and this little boy came over for prayer, and he said, we had a translator, so he told the translator in Spanish what he wanted, and it just touched my heart that he wanted prayer because he had an algebra exam to take. And he wanted us to pray that he would pass that exam. And then we actually went to a school and a church every day. And, okay, you guys are sitting pretty comfortable right now. Now, I don't know if you guys can imagine those plastic white lawn chairs that go around the circle table and have the two armrests. That's what you sit on in the church there. The church is in the outskirts that we went to because we didn't go to the churches in the city of Guayaquil. We went to the churches on the outskirts of Guayaquil, where the people were poor and didn't have a whole lot, because there was a nice Catholic church in the city that was pews. But that's what they sat in, and that's what they had in their churches. And we have pictures of the churches as well. But we went to this one church, and as we were driving through all the mountains to this church, and we had the translator, we had the pastor of that church was on the bus with us, and he was telling the translator who shared with us later some history behind his church. And this guy lived in Guayaquil, and he rode his bike out to this area to minister to the people in this community that we were going to because his heart was so full, and God had given him such a passion and a love for these people. And he had told our translator about, we passed by the piece of land that had belonged to the church. And because he wasn't able to build the church and use the land quickly enough, the government had taken the land away, and he could not, it was no longer theirs, it belonged to the government now. But glory be to God, the government did come back at a later time and give them another piece of land, which was more land than they had before. So glory to God for that. And on that land, we marched, and I was so touched with it. His name is Pastor Victor Ortiz. And we marched around that land 7 times, and we shouted to the Lord, and we sang God of the City for that pastor. And I am believing that that church is going to be built on that land, because he had shared with us also how they had marched around the previous site and with another group of missionaries who had come at another time. And we were believing that this time God has the final say so, and that church will be built. And I trust in that, and I believe in that, and I solicit your prayers for Pastor Ortiz and his church family and his staff, that that church will be built. And the next time we go back to Ecuador, I know I am praying that that church is on our route, because I know it's going to be there. It may not be on our route, but I know it's going to be there. But I'm praying that it will be on our route so that I can see that church. And if nothing else, I'll get some pictures because I got his email address. But I just want to encourage, especially our young people. This is something that you can do. You don't have to know a lot of Spanish. You know, no hablo español works really, really well. Sometimes. Some of the kids, you say that, and if you say one thing, because my name is a Spanish name. And so when I said, you know, that my name was Anita, and I think that's me llamo Anita, or they call me Anita, I think it's a literal translation of that. And they would bring all the kids to me because they knew how to say Anita in Spanish, because Anita was a Spanish name, and they could say it. And everybody would bring all the kids. Anita, Anita, they would point at my back, Anita, Anita. And I'm like, wow. But you don't have to know a lot, because once you find out, and what they even told us, God knows your prayer no matter the language. And these people, they pray in Spanish and you pray in English, and it's okay. Because God hears. God hears, and God knows what their needs are. So if that's the hindrance for you, and I'm like Sister Jackie, you know, we got into this thing. We're going to do a little more Spanish, because I had a lot more Spanish than that. I should be able to say more than colors and numbers, because I had quite a bit of Spanish like Jackie. But I didn't practice it. And when I was in college, I could speak it, but I didn't practice it after that. But Jackie and I both said we're going to learn a little bit more Spanish so that we can communicate a little bit more. Because like Jackie, I can't roll my R either. But I can say Jesus. But I can't say Jesus Cristo. I can't roll that R. But I really want to encourage the young people to, you know, get it in your heart. Start now. You can start fundraising anytime you want. The trip is the same time next year. It's the 3rd week in July. Start your fundraising now so that you can have the funds, because there were other young kids from the other churches that went with us, and actually there was a young girl from a church on our team that was on our evangelism team, the one that I was on. We had 3 separate evangelism teams. But I encourage you to start preparing now, because this is an experience that will change your life. It will definitely make you appreciate the blessings that you have and not complain so much about when you realize, I mean, it's one thing we say all the time, this person has less, that person has less, but until you visually see it, then you get convicted. And so I encourage the young people, when you're saving up all these other things, these nice clothes and all this stuff you really don't need, you know, wear a pair of jeans and a couple T-shirts and you're good. I encourage you to put some pennies aside and start saving some money so that we can take you next year on this trip. And that so you can see how blessed and privileged you are. Because it's not by happenstance, but for the grace of God, you could be living in Ecuador. I could be living in Ecuador. It is not, we are not special people. We are not God's chosen special people that we are here in America. But we're here in America to have the resources in America to share them with someone else somewhere else. Haiti, Ecuador, whatever the country God leads your heart to, that's where you need to share. And let's not be such hoarders of everything that we have and freely give to others. Thank you.